All right, let's keep this conversation going and welcome in economic strategist Francis Stacy. Francis, welcome to National Update. Great to see you. So we are less than 48 hours away from a potential government shutdown. President Trump is making a last-ditch effort to avoid that, as mentioned, by meeting with top lawmakers on both sides. Do you think the president is just maybe checking a box at this meeting, or do you think that he can actually strike a deal here?
I don't know if he's going to be successful in striking a deal, but it is very interesting what Jeffrey said, because Americans, 60% plus Americans, are living paycheck to paycheck. And they're arguing for these Affordable Care Act tax extensions, which actually don't expire till the end of the year. Now, in 2013, when the government was shut down, over 850,000 employees were furloughed. And Trump is warning now of mass firings. So it's interesting. He's trying to reduce the insurance costs. That issue doesn't come up till the end of the year. And if they dig their heels in, then these other employees, including essential workers, may not be paid. And we have a precarious situation with people who are living on credit, and that could cause a credit event. The other really key thing to consider is in the 2024 budget, 27% of the 2024 fiscal budget was discretionary spending, right? So that's not essential. That is part of the reason that our GDP is so high. So this puts a lot of things at risk.
Yeah, and Francis, you mentioned those potential mass layoffs. I mean, let's talk about the consequences there, obviously, to the people that are getting laid off, but it also impacts the economy, too.
Absolutely. In the shutdown in 96, Social Security checks still went out, but there were some delays around new applicants for Social Security, and a lot of people rely on that to live. So hopefully Trump is able to do a deal. Hopefully the Democrats can bend on this Affordable Care tax issue that doesn't expire until the end of the year. But I'm not hopeful. I think they're both going to let the government shut down to try and gain political leverage, unfortunately.
Yeah, and you know that we are getting dangerously close, as mentioned, less than 48 hours away from the potential shutdown. And Democrats still, refusing to budge, really digging in their heels for their demands. I want you to take a listen to this. This is a Democrat caucus chair talking about it.
So if the two aren't linked, then you won't vote for it, and you think many other Democrats won't.
That's correct. This has to be a deal that addresses the healthcare crisis that they have created in this country. Until we see a movement in that direction, there will be plenty of House Democrats who will not support Republican plans to reopen the government without addressing this self-inflicted crisis that they have created.
Francis, your reaction to this, them really digging their heels in, is this helping the people at all?
I agree there's an issue with healthcare, but the thing is if you use healthcare to create 20 other crises, including, potential risks to our liquidity, our record amount of liquidity in the system, which is keeping our credit systems alive, which is keeping our stock markets high, which is keeping consumers strong, which is keeping people able to service their debt. If you just grandstand on the healthcare issue, which isn't the immediate issue, you could create a lot of other systemic problems depending on how long the shutdown lasts. So I just don't think it's a very good tactic.
Yeah, and Francis, could you go into that for us a little bit? If it does happen, what potentially could happen to our economy? What's the effect it could have?
Yeah, I mean, Trump hasn't said who is going to get laid off or who is going to get fired. I know there were some letters back and forth about, what is essential. And so it's hard to imagine. But, the government, when they shut down in 2013, 850,000 employees, went without pay. And so that's a big deal. They were furloughed. And depending on how much credit card debt, mortgage debt, auto debt that these families are carrying, it just depends. But it doesn't take much in the credit space to have these defaults inflect and flip the system. And you don't want to lower the liquidity because most of the economy and the record or the surprising uptick in GDP in the second quarter is due to the liquidity, and a huge portion of that is the government spending. So you just don't want to interrupt this apple cart, especially while we have questions around rates, the Fed, and the jobs market.
Yeah, and how far realistically do you think the president can go in offering concessions, without losing political ground here? What could he put on the table to kind of break this deadlock?
It just depends on if they really, I mean, I don't know what concessions he's going to offer them, because they're saying that it's all about the Affordable Care Act tax credits, and I don't think he's going to budge on that at all. And so if that is really the only thing that he can offer them where they will do a deal, then no deal is going to happen. It just kind of remains to be seen what he does. But he's going to use all of his political leverage. The last time in his first administration, when the government had a shutdown, it was about 34 days or 5 weeks long. And so we will just have to see. I'm not counting on a deal by Wednesday, but hopefully they can get one soon.
All right. Before I let you go, final thoughts.
Final thoughts are just, people don't realize that government spending is such a huge component of GDP. And government spending is the thing that kept us out of recession when the Fed raised rates, because the Fed lowered their bond buying and the government fiscal spending that was at a record filled that in. And so if you stop that gravy train, you could just have other consequences in the stock market, in the credit markets, with people defaulting, et cetera, et cetera. And I think people need to realize the mechanics around that.
Yeah, it's very serious and the clock is ticking. Frances Stacy, thank you so much for being with us. Appreciate it.